Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar hosted by the MassRobotics Healthcare Robotics Working Group. My name is Juan Necochea, and I'm Director of Strategic Partnerships here at MassRobotics. We're thrilled to have you here as we explore the intersection of robotics and healthcare with our esteemed collaborator, Mitsubishi Electric Automation. At MassRobotics, we're super proud to be the largest independent robotics hub dedicated to accelerating innovation and adoption in robotics, automation, and physical AI. Our mission is to foster the development of successful technology companies by providing them with essential resources, a workspace, and valuable connections, among other opportunities to help them scale. Our working groups are open to the entire robotics automation community. They are designed to meet industry needs and drive the adoption of robotics for both commercial and societal benefit. I encourage anyone interested to reach out and get involved. We currently have working groups in many sectors, including, but not limited to, drones, AMRs, autonomous vehicles, and of course, healthcare. If you're interested in participating in the working groups and have not yet connected with us, please send me an email after this event and I will provide you with details on how to participate. Today, we'll hear from our featured speakers from Mitsubishi Electric Automation, Dr. William Nguyen, PhD, who is Research and Development Manager at Mitsubishi Electric Automation, based in Cambridge, Massachusetts. Also with us, James Brown, who is Senior Manager of Mitsubishi Electric Automation's Global Industry Solutions Division, joining us from Minneapolis and waving on camera.
Sorry, Juan.
What did I say?
You said James Brown, Jeff Brown.
I thought I said James Brown, and I thought, what did I just say?
Hey. But I will say, jump back, kiss myself, just because you said James Brown, all right? So
good for you.
We'll go with it.
For you. And James Knauer, who is a Senior Field Application Engineer and a staple to our MassRobotics community here in Boston. All three of them are joining us here. They will introduce Mitsubishi Electric's open innovation approach and how their advanced automation solutions are driving transformation in healthcare. Our speakers will highlight key advancements in robotics automation for healthcare applications, ranging from material handling to high-precision solutions that improve efficiency and safety in medical environments. We'll also explore Mitsubishi Electric's collaboration with startups, the MassRobotics Healthcare Robotics Startup Catalyst, and how they're mentoring emerging companies in healthcare systems integration. And now, without further ado, let's dive into today's session. I'd like to hand it over to our speakers from Mitsubishi Electric Automation. Please enjoy and thank you. Jeff, it's in your hands.
Thanks, Juan. I'm so happy to be here. Thanks for attending. Thanks for this opportunity. I've been to MassRobotics once. I live in Minneapolis, and I'm looking forward to get back there. So with that said, we're here to talk about, innovation in healthcare. And before I get started, I have a little story to tell that involves 10 pennies. But before I get to that context, I got to relate it to my mother. So my mother was a single mother, raised 3 kids on a hairdresser budget, and she was an Italian mother. I definitely didn't get my engineering side from her. She was definitely more of that kind of spiritual, kind of heartfelt side. But with that said, the advice I did take from my mother is kind of that heart side. So when she would tell me she had a dream or, there was something like that, it always caught my attention. And I'll never forget when I was in middle school, she said she had this dream. And the dream is that, I was making all this money. I was successful, but she was doing laundry and she found a bunch of money in my pocket. And she's like, Jeff, you got to respect money. You got to expect, every little nickel or penny. And I can say, I remembered that dream. So anytime I see a penny on the ground, I pick it up, right? Because of that connection I made with my mother. So that's kind of the background on my mother. You're probably wondering, well, how does this relate to 10 pennies? And then how does it relate to what I'm going to present? Well, I was at the car wash. So I live in Maple Grove, Minnesota. It's a very affluent, suburb of Minneapolis. And I've been trying to take better care of my fleet vehicle, so I get more car washes, and it was time to get it vacuumed. As I was vacuuming out my car, I looked down and there was 10 pennies on the ground. And I'm like, oh my gosh, a couple of them were kind of grimy, you know, and I'm like, man, I don't want to touch those things. But again, I remembered my mother, and I'm like, okay, I got to take those pennies. Now, side story to that, after I go through the car wash, whatever change I have, I always tip on it, right? So I'm like, well, I didn't have a lot of cash. Who has cash these days? So, you know, I cleaned it up. It was going to be my tip. Now, the interesting thing is when I picked up these pennies, I turned one of the pennies over and there was a dime stuck to the penny. And I'm like, oh, well, 10 pennies just became 20 cents. So what's the moral of this story? As Mitsubishi Electric and being a big company, we do things, right, to search for those pennies. And it's important to look at pennies and how pennies can grow into adding more value. And that ties into that entrepreneurship, that innovation side, the side I love to do. I love to search for those pennies, try to find dimes, right? That became 20% of a dollar, okay? And as you know, with entrepreneurs and innovation, you're always trying to compound your growth and grow. So we're trying to find dimes from pennies. Okay, so sorry, bear with me 1 minute. I'm going to the next slide. So with that said, we just want to give a little background on who Mitsubishi is, as we are a $30 billion company, right? So a lot of times that's a long ways from pennies, but obviously we're trying to create value for our shareholders. Within this umbrella, Mitsubishi Electric, I focus in the industrial automation space. That's where we're going to focus today. But we have a lot of other groups as well. So we do air conditioning systems, we do components, we do projectors. We're in power. So a lot of the healthcare infrastructure, we're the ones distributing the power to those facilities, as well as, you know, a lot of those facilities may have power banks or, you know, backup power. We're in communications and satellites, as well as transportation as well. So we got a really strong brand name. Traditionally, the group we've been in has been industrial automation. And, you know, as you can imagine, being a Japanese company, a lot of that market share has been in Asia. So when we look at our market here, which we call North America, we have a low market share, and we're looking at creative ways to grow. And that's where our focus in working with the Healthcare Innovation Group, working with MassRobotics, having our North America Development Center comes in. So we're always looking at new ideas. How can we help you? How can we bring these new ideas to fruition? So, you know, one thing I like about working for a Japanese-based company, there is a lot of focus on the social aspect and the people. You know, even before this became kind of the cool thing for large corporations to do, right? I mean, I would say over the years, I've seen more and more emphasis on the stakeholder versus the shareholder, as large corporations have to, you know, look at how they're going to look going into the future. So we've just, you know, this has just become more important to us. And it ties well into healthcare innovation because it is about the people. It's about well-being. It's about society. It's about having a safe and secure society. It's about how we leverage resources efficiently and effectively. So, you know, this is a key area for Mitsubishi Electric, and I think it ties in well with what we're trying to do with healthcare. Some of the challenges with healthcare, and if I want to kind of reach into that heart side of this, we all know recently or heard in the news about it was a sad event about the CEO, you know, Brian, that was murdered in New York. Well, that hits home to me because he's from Maple Grove, where I live. So, you know, he was involved in the community here. And I mean, if that isn't enough to tell you about challenges, because that was directly related to healthcare issues, right? I mean, that's kind of the big picture. But if you want to boil into that, and what it means is, we have an aging population. There's lack of labor and personnel to work in healthcare. Healthcare is trying to reduce costs. I mean, that's related to, the insurance and, these advancements in medicine, which are great, but at the same time, this all costs money. When I came into the engineering field, there was a lot of industrial engineers back in the 90s going into work in hospitals because there was a lot of focus on optimizing workflows, looking at processes, and we've just continued to see that advance to now we're looking at, right, automation and robotics and how we leverage AI. This is always about the patient, and this is my industrial side, right? That probably should be number one in the healthcare world, but we tend to look at things from a productivity standpoint. So I put it in here at the middle, but it is about improving patient care and well-being. We have a lot of fast changes in medical science. Data. When I was going for my master's, the CEO of Sun Microsystems came in to speak, and this was in the 2000s. And this is when Sun Microsystems was kind of going under. They were Unix-based. And you know what he said at that time? He goes, at one point, we're going to be giving servers away because it's going to be about information. Information is gold. And you see that more. Look at the richest people in the world. What companies are they with? Amazon, Oracle, who bought Sun, is there, right? Apple. It's all information. Information moves everything, and it's very critical in healthcare. And then finally, we're seeing a lot of mergers and acquisitions. As that happens, there's more focus on that operational efficiency. So there's a lot of opportunity here to innovate. And my question to you would be, looking at those 10 pennies is, how do you make a dime in this? How can we work together? What ideas do you have as innovators that can help us address these challenges? So from a Mitsubishi standpoint, what are we doing and what have we done to kind of focus in this area and solve these challenges? Obviously, we're more of an industrial company. We have worked on the commercial side in some of our divisions. I would say our focus has been on more of the build, currently is the building kind of environmental temperature control and management of those building systems. Leveraging robotics and automation, as well as, some things around artificial intelligence. And again, these are more just kind of a litmus to put some ideas out there that we're looking to work with innovators that's in this, seminar to advance these areas. One example recently that we've focused a lot, what we call MASAR, which is our umbrella term for our artificial intelligence. And there's kind of two parts to that. We're a very practical Japanese company. So when we look at technologies, we're like, how will that apply into a specific space? Which I think is important for innovators these days, right? I mean, you got to have an idea, you got to bring it to market, you got to make money on it and grow it. In this case, we're leveraging AI and vision systems to look at what an operator does. This is applied to manufacturing, but could just as easily apply to a healthcare environment. Have AI analyze that, do some, more generative focus on how it can do that more efficient and make recommendations on that. So just one example, not meant to be a sales pitch because this is more on our R&D side, meant to be more just like a food for thought and how, we're leveraging technology in the manufacturing space. So next is environmental and elevator control. So we have a division that does elevators, as well as controlling the environment in a hospital. So here's an example of, providing what we call variable refrigerant flow technology for doing multi-zone, environment control. And then as well, during COVID-19, it's a simple technology. And I know a lot of, when we've worked with MassRobotics, the focus has been on software and AI and robotics. But at the other end of the spectrum, you have what we call a variable frequency drive. And in this case, Chicago needed to set up a temporary hospital, and they needed drives and airflow for that facility and clean air. And we were able to help with that. So again, this is just meant to be like food for thought, areas that we're focusing on as a base that we can grow on to find those dimes. So just want to, mention some of our portfolio of products. And why I want to do this is because further on, when we talk about our North America development group and what we're doing, is they're bringing their expertise built around our products, right? At the end of the day, I'm paid for going and growing this market space. And like I said, we're trying to find creative ways to do that when we're not the leader. So working with, innovative healthcare startups in those areas allow us to get our technologies in, and we'll have some examples of that. So on kind of the top end is what we call controls and visualization. So, we have a software division, what we call digital software, and we've done a lot of, building control, be it universities, hospitals, airports, factories, where we're managing that data and, making decisions on that data, as well as incorporating AI. Then we get our core technologies around what we call programmable logic controllers, and these are just sequencers. And at the end of the day, you need to sequence things. And depending on the system, you always have some electrical, mechanical, pneumatic, hydraulic, right? It's, that stuff's always going to be there. And software is great, but at the end of the day, these machine parts need to work together, and that's where PLCs come in. I saw a post that said, we're going to replace the PLC. It's like, you might replace the hardware, but you're always going to have something doing sequencing. And that's where that comes in. It's been a core part of our business. Then we do machine control, so CNC machine control. So in the case of kind of the healthcare side, if you think of like little sutures or you think of catheters, a lot of that starts on a CNC machine and makes its way down further in the process. A key area we've worked with MassRobotics, as I mentioned, is robots. So we've primarily been industrial robots, but those work well in specific applications and been a key area we've worked. Drive systems I mentioned, and then all of the electrical side of it as well. Again, these are just base technologies that, essentially, if you're working with NADC, that group, they're going to incorporate these technologies in. We've done a lot of examples where we're investing these technologies with the startups within MassRobotics to seed and get them going. So now moving on a little bit, another area we've used to kind of find that dime in the pennies is an alliance technology program. And really the opportunity here is to provide kind of a ecosystem for innovators to leverage the Mitsubishi name, and for us to find complementary partners and technologies to what we have. Because as a big company, we're going to focus on our core, right? And we're going to really look outside for those innovators and entrepreneurs that are going to, be those 10 pennies and maybe that dime in there. I would say eFactory for us is broken down into 3 parts. There's kind of the information data structure side that we've used in manufacturing, but could also apply to healthcare, because you kind of have that low level of your equipment, different disparate islands of data. You have that mid-level and then the high level. So those data models we've been using a long time in manufacturing, again, because that information is gold. Next is enabling technology. So we don't make everything needed for, manufacturing, or for that case in a hospital. For example, when we provide our software to control building management, there's third-party HVAC, there's networks called BACnet that are used in there. So enabling technologies can be part of eFactory, as well as other partners. Finally, where it's been really successful in working with MassRobotics and NADC, it's kind of like a bridge or a next step to working with Mitsubishi Electric. So as we work with innovators and startups, they get to that point where, they've got to standardize their system and what they're doing. And they have choices on that. And we realize they have choices. Sure, we've been in the ground floor with them, but they have choices, and we want to be part of that. And that's where we've leveraged eFactory to give them give their customers a feel that they're backed by a large company, by Mitsubishi Electric. On our side, it gives us some mutual skin in the game and an opportunity to work with that startup. So a key part of that has been, us working with our NADC group, which is working with MassRobotics and these partners. And with that, I'd like to hand it off to William, who's going to do a little more intro about who our North America development group is and what they do.
Thank you, Jeff. I am William from North American Development Center, belong to the Mitsubishi Electric Automation. So our team also focused on the open innovation. We would like to work closely with incubator, look like MassRobotics, and also many startups to also do the joint marketing, joint development, all the same now new product development. Mitsubishi Electric Automation very emphasize on the innovation because we also want to bring the entire solution to customer. So it requires a system integrator and also multiple solutions from the startup, and they can bring more efficient technology to different solutions. So we have three approaches to work with the startup. The first approach is the same. Now we can combine two products together and provide to customer. So it's more about joint marketing. The second approach is that we also the same have the new technology development together with startup. So we the same acquire the startup technology, work together, and we also can develop the new product development. And the last one, we also would like to work with the startup, so the startup can utilize our product to also provide the application, the new software to the existing customer. So that's we can provide to not only the US market, but also the worldwide market, especially in Japan, we can expand to that. So to work with the startup, we always think the important, we can have the ecosystem. And when we work at Boston, MassRobotics is the largest robotic hub in the worldwide. And MassRobotics also support with different program and event to also bring the startup and corporation together. So from 2019, Mitsubishi Electric Automation also partner with MassRobotics, and we also the same work with a number of the startup at MassRobotics, depend on the program and also the activity. The main purpose is to try to utilize the same the ecosystem, and we can bring the value, the solution to customer, especially in robotic and automation. From 2019, we also work with MassRobotics in a very two successful program. The first one is the startup engagement program in 2020. We also have more than 30 companies apply for the program. We also review, interview with the 30 companies, and also select 10 companies for the proof of concept and development. And after that, we also work with the startup about 6 months POC, and we develop the actual solution, bring to the new customer. And we also bring the new to Japan, and they can also work with our headquarters. Besides that, we also work with the MassRobotics healthcare program together with Novanta, Festo, Yasu, Maito to bring the new mentoring support to the early stage startup. We can coach them to also grow the company, in terms of product development and business development. So far, we also have more than 15 startups to work on the POC, and we also have 5 companies also work to the pilot development and also to the go-to-market. And the main purpose from our team is a win-win solution, so we can work with startup and also make startup to grow in both the same now the business and also the product development. For the healthcare program, we're also very happy to work with our partner. And in this year, we have a very successful year with 33 applicants. And we take about 2 weeks to interview and review the startup. And we also select 6 startups for the same now mentoring. And at this moment, Mitsubishi Electric Automation also working with Novanta and Yasu, and also mentor 3 startups. So first startup is the offshore technology for the AMR in the hospital logistics. The second company is the Revimo. They also support for the same now the wheelchair, smart wheelchair for the elderly. And the third company is the sit-up space for the sensing and checking accuracy in the hospital. So we also very happy to show some of the successful example in this couple of slides. The next one, I would like to, next slide please. In 2024, we also work with the multiple startup, and one of the startup we also very would like to say today is the IF Robotics. They also use our robot for the medical assembly, and they also can use in multiple the same now deployment in the future. I would like to ask James to also share about successful story on that. Thank you.
Thank you, William. What I want to do now is, tie together some of the points from Jeff and William and how Mitsubishi's reach and experience and with our products and software, how we add value and allow the startups to focus on the technologies that's going to make them stand out in the market, and let us do heavy lifting with the different industrial aspects in automation and interfacing to the end customers of where these products are going to end up. And with the 3 different approaches of that William was talking about, you see in the first example, this was a system that they had a ROS developed environment for motion planning, as well as 3D vision incorporated in order to control the robot in a dynamic workflow for the end customer. And that's where our hardware partnered with their software solution. The next image, our hardware incorporating a startup's technology to allow for a natural language teaching and control to give an end customer a more intuitive teaching approach of our hardware. And in the last one, the startup made Ubros makes the gripper that goes onto the end the robot, and they implemented software and firmware into their system that would allow our robot to work with their food and medical grade gripper. And this case, Rift Robotics, in more detail of how we, from beginning to where we are now, we're still currently working. And Rift was also showcased in a previous cohort and was also shown at the Robotics Summit. We conceptualized how we'd work together. We used our software to get the software team developing drivers, right off the bat, that way they don't have to wait for the hardware to show up or to work on those business interactions. they could start immediately and work in the 3D simulation to do initial testing with motion control in their environment. We were able to reduce some CapEx for them by loaning them a robot in their lab environment, of which they did additional hardware testing with their vision system and a unique gripper system to identify and grasp different medical implements that were in an unstructured environment to work on the customer's problem. And then this even escalated in order to show their technology, their particular location. MassRobotics has residents and different startups that work actually around the world. RIF was still in the US, but they were in Georgia. And the robotics show is in Boston for the Robotics Summit. We were able to use the development that they did on site in their lab and transfer that over to hardware that we had locally. So that demo wouldn't have to be shipped, but that we could use it. The local hardware did that the day before the show, get their hardware incorporated, and in order to demonstrate to potential investors and to show off their technology to a more broader customer base. And that's, how we can help, reduce time for engineering, getting their product to market with our products that we can produce at scale and have been industrial hardened. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, James.
Thank you so much. Thank you, James. Thank you, Jeff. And thank you, William. If anybody has a question, feel free to drop it on the chat section or send it directly to me. First question here is a broad question, and it talks about the genesis of it all. And I was wondering, why did Mitsubishi Electric Automation choose to engage in an open innovation and startup collaboration? I know you talked about this throughout the presentation, but I'm wondering, where does it begin, and what are you kind of overarching objective?
Yeah, thank you, Juan. I would like to take this because our team also focused on the open innovation, and we believe the open innovation is a way to bridge the gap between the advanced industrial automation technology and the emerging application in robotics and AI from the startup and from the many corporations. And Mitsubishi Electric is a Japanese company, so we are very focused on the quality and high reliable product, but we also need more speed and time. So that is why the MassRobotics and also the startup can help us to grow and make the solution faster. And we can also work with the early stage startup and also can adopt the new technology, new product together, and we can bring the solution to customer and make the win-win to both company. Yes, that's our philosophy. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll add to that. I mean, one thing you see in society and we see in large corporations is just like, there's two sides, right? There's like Mitsubishi is a $30 billion company, and then you have companies trying to just get started. Same with my pennies, right? On one hand, I live in a suburb with the CEO of United Health, right? And then on the other hand, I go for a car wash and there's people just getting by, right? So for us as a big company, we're very internal focused, right? I mean, we got to keep that shareholder happy. We're 150 years old, so we have to look external for that growth. We have to invest externally. We got to bring these companies in, and we need vehicles like NADC and innovators to do that.
A little follow-up in terms of bringing the industrial automation focus here. So how does Mitsubishi Electric's experience of these 150 years of experience in industrial automation translate into the healthcare applications? How do you kind of dive into that space?
Well, I'll answer that. And James mentioned RIF, right? And again, I'm going to use my analogy of those grimy pennies because it's not easy work. It's not pretty. It's getting the hands dirty. It's applying industrial technology to these applications. But I think like with working with Riff and Kevin, what they see is the quality of the robot. You know, they were kind of using a robot that they started with that didn't have the precision or that quality. And what we see in healthcare, or even like when we're doing med devices, they validate something. You know, you're dealing with people, right? I mean, this stuff can't fail. Once you validate something, you want to make money off of that. And we found that robustness of our technology, that investment in quality, you know, James hit on that, is key. The performance, you know, the precision of the technology, the fact that we're one of the few companies that we design down to our own encoder, right? I mean, so we're really owning that technology. We're doing it in a very safe environment for manufacturing. You know, Japan, sure, we got some typhoons every now and then, but geopolitically it's pretty safe. So, you know, you can ensure that that technology is going to be there. On the tough side, yeah, we got open technology, you know, but it's not like with Riff, you know, they needed additional robots and we had to find creative ways to get them that. You know, James's full-time job is not this. He does other stuff, but he devotes a lot of time to helping with this, right? And I'm sure on the Riff side, they're like, man, why couldn't Mitsubishi be easier to work with, right? So that's the grimy part, but we understand that is going to take some work, and we're willing to put that in.
So that brings me to my next question quite nicely. So what challenges has Mitsubishi Electric encountered when working with startups, and how do you go about kind of solving that? How do you adapt to that?
Yeah, I know for myself, you know, adapting to startup needs. I've worked for an end user, for kind of a startup machine builder, and I've seen some of the different work environments that are, you know, slower or fast paced. We do some of the things that we've adapted is learning, you know, some of the new technologies that they're working with, but then also showing what we already know from the industrial space, and like how do you, you know, more reliably or robust, you know, apply some of this to the end customer. You know, like in the hospital, there's a lot of tasks that are not directly, you know, customer facing, and with a hospital almost being like a manufacturing facility with a human centric focus, you know, trying to take away some of those, you know, those tasks which have been very complex, but with new innovation will now allow an automation penetration into that area to allow people to work with people and have those grimy tasks done by automation.
Here's a question from Mike. I'll loop this in. So I think he speaks to a lot of the work you guys have been doing with startups that you were mentioning in previous question, but I think there's a little specific aspect here to the how. So he says, what would you primarily say is Mitsubishi's focus in working with startups? Is this penetration into new markets for Mitsubishi as a supplier? Or is it motivated by interest in acquisition, licensing of novel technology for new Mitsubishi branded products?
That's a very, very good question. Actually, that is one of the things when we also start the open innovation, we also want to focus on two categories. The first one is the new business development, how to work with the startup, and they know about the market, the domain, and they can utilize our product together and also penetrate to the new market. So that's why we also work with the same now MassRobotics in healthcare program. We also work with the startup in the program, and we also expand the robotic and automation in the healthcare automation. Or we also work with some startup in agriculture. They also use the same now PLC and also the robotic for some of the fish farming management, look like dramatic startup company. But at the same time, we also form the engineering and new product development. We would like to work for the state-of-the-art technology. So we also collaborate with the very advanced technology from the startup. Look like the same now real-time robotic. They have the motion planning and optimization for robotic. We also collaborate and invest and also the same now one of the same now high investor for this one in Series B funding. So we also look forward for both new business and new product development with the startup. Yes, so look like Mike, thank you so much for the question. We always want to have the win-win for startup and the corporation. So that's the why we always think about what is the use case. We can also the same have a practical use case, and the solution can go to the market. And the final goal is that we can go to market together. So that is the long-term relationship we would like to build with a startup and also with other corporations.
Thanks, Will. That's awesome. I appreciate the answer.
Thank you so much for the question.
What is Mitsubishi Electric's automation's long-term goals in healthcare robotics if we're looking down the line?
Yes, so we always consider MassRobotics is a strategic partnership with Mitsubishi Electric because MassRobotics always the same now have we talk of 3 items. The first one you also the last is robotic hub in the world with the many startups, so we can collaborate with the number of startups in every year or every month. The second one is that we also have the office space and the lab to also work with the startup in new product development at MassRobotics lab. And the third one is we have the trust between the startup and also the corporation Mitsubishi Electric through the MassRobotics, because we know with the MassRobotics and also with the recommendation, the startup understand we also very serious relationship to work with the startup, not only the same now go directly to startup and ask for the meeting, sometimes it's difficult.
Final question is, how does Mitsubishi open up its technologies for innovators and startups? How can they get in contact with you?
I maybe answer this because I and James also work at Boston. We also come to MassRobotics frequently, so we always try to be present and also try to contact through the face-to-face meeting or maybe the same through the healthcare program. But Jeff Rao and the MBAU team, we also have many people and members in different regions. Sometimes when we also have a successful the POC, the development, we will always share with the Jeff team so they can bring to the exhibition, bring the startup go to the same conference, exhibition or potential customer. So we work closely with the business team to close the gap between the engineering and the business. So that is why please contact 3 of us, and we also try to contact with other people in US or in Japan to expand for the different use case or different partnership.
Well, we're a little bit over time, so I want to thank Jeff, William, and James for this wonderful presentation. I want to thank everybody that joined us here today.
You're welcome. Thanks so much, everyone. Have a good day.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good day.